And I'm not gonna get anything else here. Okay.
Are you a washed-up celebrity?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Maybe a washed-up MMA fighter.
Jeff Munson here. You like watching people get for free?
What about a bum who will do anything for money?
Teddy boy Greg's smoking a cigarette outside 7-Eleven. He just told me to smoke his.
Well, maybe you might be interested in spouting some cheeky Russian propaganda. The Russian state chooses to spend its natural resource coffers on two things: nuclear warheads and propaganda. Because who needs roads when you have the president telling you everything is perfect? In an attempt to make their cause in Ukraine more sympathetic, Russia has recruited people from the West to show government talking points. And as you'd expect, these results range from embarrassing to really embarrassing. Spouting confirmed propaganda that's so bad that the only people dumb enough to believe it is, well, themselves.
I walked around the center of Moscow for 1 hour. I said, wow, I don't see any gays and liberals on the streets. I see men and women couples. I don't see transvestites. I don't see homeless people. This place is heaven on earth. I'm moving here forever.
All of these people have completely burned their bridge with the West, with one person we're going to talk about today even ending up dead because of it. Now, there's a trend online, particularly on Reddit, where people just call anything they disagree with Russian propaganda. This video is not that. Let's just sit back and laugh at some dumbass Western celebrities. Russia's becoming more and more closed off to the world as time goes by. As of right now, Instagram, Facebook, and Discord are all banned, as well as VPNs. Kind of like China, however, the difference is that China implemented their Great Firewall over 20 years ago. In a time where saying the word brain rot might put you in a mental hospital. Point being, you can't be nostalgic for something you never had. In Russia, everyone already had access to these for many years. So when Instagram was banned for being extremist, the genie was kind of already out of the bottle. Russian censorship has gotten so bad that YouTube ads were restricted so any Russian YouTube account couldn't make money. Also, Russia fined Google, who owns YouTube, $20 decillion, which is 20 followed by 33 zeros. More money than the entire GDP of the world combined. And worst of all, Russians can't play Stalker 2 because it is a Ukrainian studio. But who's going to voluntarily come to Russia and talk about how amazing it is, especially with all the downsides and everything I just shared with you?
If you're not a degenerate liberal left dumb like most of the society is there, then you're a Nazi to them.
It's fair to say you definitely don't miss the West, do you? And I'm sure there's so many people nodding along.
If I could, I'd send a nuclear bomb there right now and wipe it off the fucking map, if you want my honest opinion.
The answer? Well, not too many people. Let's just say the ones who would be willing to do it aren't exactly the ones you'd want representing yourself. But that doesn't stop them from doing it anyway. Recruiting guys like this one here.
He's not just a barber, he's also one of LA's top alt comics. Of course, I'm talking about Teddy Boy Greg.
Meet Teddy Boy Greg. Hardcore rockabilly, Russian patriot, and what happens when you look at a generic tattoo sample book and say, one of everything, please. He's a barber now in Moscow, Russia, that left America to be a mouthpiece for the Russian government.
You see, I have the Z tattooed on my chin. I got that tattooed the second day of the special operation because I was so happy about it.
Now, what's interesting about Teddy Boy Greg is before we even get into what he's saying, let's check out some of the symbolism he's got going on. The first and most obvious one is the Z plastered on Teddy's face. What does Z mean, though? Well, it's a Russian military symbol used to identify vehicles to do with the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. It's also been used as Russian propaganda. If you wear the Z, it means you support the war in Ukraine. The primary use is with Russian hardliners, with the symbol being banned in certain countries and even compared to a swastika. So old Teddy Boy thought this would be a great tattoo to get on his face. However, this shouldn't be shocking considering this is the same guy who got a naked woman tattooed on his face as well.
Pretty much, if you're not a malicious, degenerate, liberal left in America, you're a Nazi nowadays, or a white supremacist, which isn't the case.
Interesting patch right here. Now, these numbers just so happen to be associated with the neo-Nazi prison gang in Alabama. Ironic considering he's in Russia, you know, the country where the whole reason they started this invasion was to, you know... Okay, but maybe that number is just referring to something else. I have no idea what that might be, but it is possible. Let's have a look at this instead. It was only in the scene for a brief shot, but check this out. That's the German Iron Cross. You know, the one that was on tanks that rolled into the Soviet Union in World War II, the war in which an estimated 27 million people in the Soviet Union died. Also, you know, when the guy on his wall was the leader. Ironically, this guy gives veterans haircuts for free while wearing all this stuff. A complete walking contradiction. The trend you'll notice with these guys is that they claim the West is becoming too oppressive, that you can't even say anything anymore without the fear of backlash.
You can't say nothing in America anymore unless you're liberal, if you're a degenerate or something like that.
Coming from the most notoriously free and open country for speech, Russia.
The leading critic of the Kremlin, Alexei Navalny, has been detained by police after returning to Moscow for the first time since being poisoned with a nerve agent.
He'd only been back on Russian soil a few minutes when Alexei Navalny was told he was being detained.
What if, in Russia, he took this Robert E. Lee cutout, replaced it with a cutout of Zelensky, and replaced the Confederate flag with a Ukrainian flag? All of a sudden, Russia isn't so free anymore. If you believe that the West is oppressive, fair enough. Some people are just big proponents of free speech. But moving to Russia because of their free speech laws is the equivalent of Emily moving to North Korea because she thinks the US doesn't implement her socialist ideas. Russia bans all media that isn't government approved. This extends to alternative media as well, hence why there is no Russian Joe Rogan, which is unfortunate because somebody should be able to translate his amazing President of the Lake joke.
I think the dumbest argument that aliens aren't real, people go, if aliens are real, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? Oh, well, when you go fishing, do you check in with the president of the lake?
Teddy Boy Greg here claims that Russia is the last beacon of traditional values.
I would encourage any Americans to pack your bags, figure out a way, get your assets together, figure out your trades, and move to Russia. Because this is where your future lies. There is no future in the West. I can tell you that.
This man is the face of the traditional West in his own eyes. The West is becoming too degenerate, unlike him. He loves Russia so much that he volunteered to go fight in the war as a part of an English-speaking battalion. Now, since he's made these few posts, his social media has gone completely silent. He's rumored to be on the front lines now, and whether he's dead or alive, who knows? At least he's not in the degenerate, free speech censoring West. Okay, so maybe this guy isn't exactly the best choice to speak out against the West. We need people with slightly less whatever he's got going on here. Although somehow I doubt somebody who has family, friends, and a whole life would just up and leave for a country at war. That seems to be the biggest hurdle for Russia. But what if they didn't have to move to Russia at all? Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, all these people and more, through shell companies and such, were paid a combined $10 million from the Russian State Department for a channel that had over 16 million views before it was gadooshed. Now, a typical reaction to this might be, wow, I can't believe the Russians are paying our influencers that much. That is not the takeaway I got from this. The takeaway is Russia spent $10 million for 16 million views. That is an absolutely abysmal return on investment. That's like 6 cents per view, by the way. That's what they're paying for.
This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
You're telling me I was making an extra 100 grand per episode? How could I have known this? Actually, I'm really the victim here.
They just effectively paid for a license, which would have it appear on their YouTube channel Friday mornings at 10 a.m. And with that, they got to use my likeness and things like that.
What's crazy is this isn't just some accusation. The Department of Justice is looking into this, and there's a ton of things that are still ongoing with it. But they're very boring and legalese, and also these guys didn't even leave America. Unlike the next one on this list, who actually put his money where his mouth is and paid the...
Okay. No, wait. I'm going to first do Mm-hmm. 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 Let's go to 50. Fine. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Wow. Mm-hmm. Rumble knows. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's get to the hole. Um, oh no. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Tragic. I guess account. What? Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna do it right now. Neither am I going to do something else. Just not today. Horse cock, of course cock. Just gotta spend the energy somewhere I expect it to be useful.
Eradicate all evil.
Oh wow, that's pretty fucking loud.
This is the path I follow. With pleasure. Allow me. Huh? Stay vigilant.
Full of opening.
The brand new banners for the second half of version 5.4 have been revealed. So we're going to talk about the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapon banner to help you decide.
Oh no. That's like really horrible. Okay, but I fixed it.
If these banners are worth wishing on for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who who you want to wish for and build. We are closing in on 100,000 subscribers, so if you want to support the channel, please subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks a lot. Alright, starting off with Furina. I have already made 2 very recent videos on Furina, an updated Furina guide, Ask Jello, where I answered all your questions about Furina, so you can go check that out. And I also made an in-depth Shalonen versus Furina video yesterday, because Shalonen is speculated to come on the following patch after Furina. So if you're interested in those types of questions in particular, then those videos are definitely worth a watch. As such, I won't really cover Furina like super in-depth on this video, but suffice it to say, she's an extremely strong character. She's best in slot with Novelette, and a lot of people have Novelette, so getting yourself Furina or C1 or C2 Furina are all what I would consider very worth it. One thing I will say is I do not just generally recommend most people go for Furina. I really recommend you watch, for example, the Shalonen Furina video, or even my other video back here, the Genshin 5.4, to see what kind of teams that she will work on for you. Especially, I did in my Shalonen versus Furina video, I outlined each DPS and how well they work with Furina, if they need Furina, if she's worth wishing on. So yeah, and in general, I will say for most people, her C1 is very much worth it. If you're interested in making your team stronger and you already use Furina or you plan on using Furina, her C1 is very worth it. Her C2 is also very worth it, and her weapon is pretty much not worth it at all. So that is basically Furina. For Wriothesley, I really don't like Wriothesley very much these days. He is best played as a cryo driver for Melt Moika, and that's just not a thing that Wriothesley players want to do. You want to see your Wriothesley do damage. He basically has a few teams that people like playing. There's Melt stuff that uses burning. There's Melt stuff that just uses Shalonen Bennett Xiangling. And then there's Melt stuff that uses Shalonen Bennett Moika. Shalonen Bennett Moika is the best version, but you have to do a specific combo for it. I did cover it in my Moika video. It's 5 normal attacks into a charge attack. That is Rise. Obviously, people also like to do freeze stuff. They like to do Furina stuff. They do go together like fine. It's just that freeze is not very good. There's no damage amplification. And so I really hope that one day they buff the freeze reaction, because at this point it could really use it. I'd like to see them totally rework it so that it works on bosses. Maybe it doesn't freeze them, but it applies maybe a debuff. Maybe you get resistance shred just from having freeze. I just thought of it. That's what it should be. You should get like a 20% or something resistance shred for applying hydro and cryo on enemies. I've just saved freeze. You're welcome. However, so you can send me the check. But yeah, I am expecting cryo to get a buff at some point, but I don't recommend pulling characters based on buff. Wriothesley is definitely a character that you get if you like him, and he's gonna be fine, and you can do stuff with him, and you can clear with him, and all of that fun stuff. But he is underwhelming compared to the meta DPSs of today, especially with characters like Moika just completely obliterating the DPS ceiling. Especially since his best team uses Moika, it feels bad for Moika to do more damage with her burst than Wriothesley does throughout his whole rotation. It's just absurd. So Wriothesley, should you get his C1? His C1 in pre-release, people thought it was like mandatory for his kit, and it does make his kit a lot more fun. You can do a lot more enhanced charge attacks, but it is far from mandatory. It's not actually a crazy damage boost, because you can still do charge attacks even without them being enhanced. And so it does make him more fun to play. It makes him way more cool. But at C0, he is fine. It is a better damage increase to go for his weapon over his Constellation 1. So something to keep in mind. And yeah, that's the 5 stars. Looking at the 4 stars, so we have Mika, Chongyun, and Charlotte. The cryos have been unleashed. The cryos behind the gate. Furina, or sorry,
at least that's the newer one.
Since Furina's very first banner, which is absolutely nuts that it's been that long. I really quite liked Charlotte back then as a healer for Furina, and if you have C4, you can start running Thrilling Tales in a lot of teams instead of basically having to run Favonius Codex. And being able to run Thrilling Tales actually makes her like viable on a bunch of teams that she was more of a damage loss for. Like, not that she replaces Bennett, because Bennett is obviously broken, but at least it gives you some consolation that you get a bit more healing, you get the cryo, and you get Thrilling Tales. At least it was something. You can do, like, people have done Arlecchino Melt stuff in the past. They obviously pair her with Furina. I feel like there's not a lot of crazy good teams that Charlotte is on. I think the best team right now is Novelette. They put Charlotte on there for the freeze reaction, and you know, Novelette, Shalonen, Furina does plenty enough damage, or Novelette, Kazuha, Furina does plenty of damage that you can easily run someone like Charlotte to get freeze and have extra quality of life as you're fighting, you know, AoE abysses. And then you don't even need C4 because you don't run Thrilling Tales on that team. And yeah, that's what people will often run Charlotte with. I think that's easily her most popular team. Mika, some people run Mika with Wriothesley and Farina because he heals and provides attack speed. Some people do that with Wanderer. Obviously, some people use him with Eula or Fremine. He's basically not used in any good teams right now. Since Shalonin, Mika and Charlotte have mostly lost their use cases. I don't know what you want me to say. Cryo is not in a good spot right now. This is just the facts. Of course, again, you know, Overworld or fun teams or whatever, perfectly fine to use them. They've still got strengths. I have a guide for Charlotte. It's not bad in the state that it's in. It's like obviously outdated because we have way better characters nowadays, but it's not bad. The ideas are all right in the guide. And Mika, I don't think I ever made a guide because even with Eula, he doesn't synergize all that well. And giving attack speed it's fun, but it's not that great. I know attack speed is like really good in other genres of games, but in Genshin it's just not that good because hit lag is still a thing, which is the time after you hit the enemy, and like there's a time that attack speed doesn't affect, which is just unfortunate. And then Chongyun. Chongyun's sort of I mean, he's pretty bad, but he's an underrated DPS, like a burst crowd DPS. You can melt his hits, and with Shalonin, Bennett, Farina, he's actually pretty solid as a melt DPS. Why would you do that? Well, just because you like Chongyun. It's not something I'd ever recommend as like a good value character or something like that. You do need a C6. You want to give him, you know,
also Mika.
Weapon, or not Farina's, Moika's weapon, and it you know, it can clear. It can get some pretty decent times. If you saw my my usage video, this one, I compared the usage rates versus my own clear times, and the Chongyun team cleared not that bad. So Chongyun, everybody. But yeah, overall, like looking at this banner, I feel like they're all misses in terms of meta supports. None of these are characters that people for sure. I love Charlotte. She's got an amazing design and great personality and great animation. She's super cute. I'd be happy to get her, but she's not a meta pull, and the other two are maybe even less meta pulls. So overall, it's a really big miss of a banner. It's really unfortunate for Farina watchers, especially if you're going for constellations, to just get more and more of these characters as opposed to good, like better or newer characters. It's a bit of a shame. And yeah, so there's that. Weapon banner is also looking, well, it's not looking that great because Farina's weapon is pretty bad. Basically, until you get Constellation for Farina, it's not worth going for her weapon. I know that sounds ridiculous. You can get away with it being good on double Hydro teams or Raiden teams, but other than that, Farina's weapon, and even in that case, Farina's weapon, it's so much worse than her first two constellations. It's only about equal to her third and fourth constellation, and her third and fourth constellation give other benefits. And with Constellation 4, finally you get energy refund. You can use her weapon properly. So I definitely don't recommend going on this weapon banner for Farina wanters. For Wriothesley wanters, I mean, his weapon's a pretty good upgrade, but it's hard. Like, it's only one pity is the nice thing. It's not two pities anymore. So if you want to spoil your Wriothesley with a weapon, it's not the absolute worst. Hopefully you get some Favonius Sword. At least Farina's weapon is a crit damage stat stick. Should be an upgrade for, like, compared to a lot of free-to-play weapons, but it's definitely not something to be excited about. Favonius Sword, Rust, Sacrificial Fragments, Dragon's Bane, and Sacrificial Claymore. Sacrificial Claymore, it's pretty good on Dia. I don't know if anyone else uses it right now. Sac Frags is pretty good on a bunch of characters, most notably Sucrose, but I think there's some others that use it that aren't coming to mind right now. Dragon's Bane, like EM, Raiden, EM Toma, Hu Tao, can be used on Arlecchino Melt, if I'm not much mistaken. No, Hydro or Pyro, so it is no good on Melt teams. That's too bad. If it was good on Melt teams for, like, Melt Arlecchino, that could be pretty cool, but unfortunately, no, it has to be vaporized. That is unfortunate. And then Rust, basically only good on Yoimiya, and it's very good on Yoimiya, but who's using Yoimiya and wishing on this weapon banner? That is ridiculous. And Favonius Sword, obviously an incredible sword. I have tons of copies on my account, and I'm happy about it. But do not wish on the weapon banner for the 4 stars. They are at best a consolation prize, and at worst a huge annoyance, as you get all Rusts and no Favonius Swords. At least for, I guess, on the positive side, at least you can get copies of Charlotte with Farina. I feel like a lot of people like Charlotte, and a lot of people want some copies of Charlotte, and she's like comfy and nice to use, and she heals an absolute metric ton, so that feels nice at least. So at least like you have a couple healer options. It's stupid that they're both cryo. And as dumb as it is, Bennett Xiangling, this would have been like a good time, a good synergistic time for Bennett Xiangling, because Wriothesley wants both Bennett Xiangling, and Furina Bennett Xiangling is a great core for like every character. Maybe not a great core, but it's like a solid core for every character. So as dumb as it is, I kind of would have liked to see Bennett Xiangling Charlotte on this banner, and then I would have been happier with it. Obviously something cooler like Kuki, or I don't even know. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you want to get Furina, if you want to get Wriothesley, don't let these hold you back. Right? Don't let the 4 stars hold you back from getting your Furina or your Wriothesley or your C1. It's getting good 4 stars is basically a myth, and stay off the weapon banner unless you're a really dedicated Wriothesley main. And if you were really into Furina teams, you could really consider C1 or C2 because it really makes a difference. I won't be going for it because I'm trying to test everyone at C0 except for like my very favorite or like very select characters, but I'm trying to mostly test at C0. And her Constellation 1 really does make her, like, it is a huge bonus for her. It's a huge increase. So that's it. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you've been enjoying the videos. And if you don't want to do that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
So it's 2. In here, I think. Yeah.
No, see, now that's way too fast. So that can't be right. Wait. Chat, we'll figure this out. No, it's not me. What am I doing? Chat, I feel like you've turned me around all the way backward. It's gotta be divide. Is the math mathing? Oh my god. It'd be meters per second. What am I getting wrong? I know, I'm seeing if that's what they meant. It should just be this, right? Yeah, I had this right. This was the first freaking thing that I did. Just don't understand how they got the next part. I'm going on what the codex itself said in the game. Didn't get far in the game at all. All we did was spend an hour talking about this. Could I make a whole video out of this? I don't know. But it does annoy me. And so, here we are. I love the Mass Effect games for many reasons. The dialogue, the characters. Oh, Arya, I said Mass Effect. Sorry, the characters. I especially love the series for trying to incorporate real space science into the games. But here's the problem. Some very cool Mass Effect math has been wrong for nearly 20 years, and no one has known why. Until now.
Now entering the facility.
I don't have many problems with the Mass Effect games aside from this obviously American politician, but when the games go to the trouble of being more science-y than most, I can't stand it when something stands out more than a report. Science-y, obviously American politician, but when the games go to the trouble of being more science-y than most, I can't stand it when something stands out more than a reporter's punchable face. And that something is this. This is the Citadel, an artificial hub world for all the galaxy's spacefaring species. It takes its inspiration from actual space station designs like the Stanford Taurus and the O'Neill cylinder. The Citadel looks like these famous images from 1975 and 1976 respectively, because if humanoids are to live in space for extended periods of time, our bones, circulatory systems, and faces prefer to live under gravity. The theoretical torus and cylinder generate this gravity by spinning. Spinning is a good trick that can mimic gravity in space through fictitious forces. You know when you're driving a car and you take a tight turn and it feels as though you are being pushed to the outside edge of that turn? Well, that force you're feeling is fake. It's fake in the sense that to anyone outside of the car, there is obviously no one inside forcing you to one side or the other. Instead, your body is moving along with the car, and when it turns, your body wants to continue in a straight line. Inertia. But the friction of your butt in the seat and the belt across your chest moves you along with the curve. In the car, it feels like a hot Asari biotic commando is pushing you outwards with some invisible force that you're actually totally into, but the reality is that the car is simply forcing you to move along the curve, with force. This difference between observers is why the centrifugal force is considered fictitious and the centripetal force is not. Centripetal acceleration is how the Citadel generates artificial gravity. By spinning, all the inhabitants in the wards and the Presidium will feel as though they are pinned at their feet to the inside edge of that gigantic structure. The trick is to get all the numbers correct, the rate of rotation, the radius, so that that pinning feels just like gravity does on a planet. But it is the numbers that are the problem with Mass Effect Citadel.
Why did I find this poster in your captain's quarters?
What? That's not mine. I don't even know if that's a poster of a character named Miranda or not. Today's episode is sponsored by Display. Gamers, I'm award-winning science educator and nuclear poster boy, Kyle Hill. You know, if you're like me, you have an ever-expanding menagerie of nerdy art that you want to display. But you want something that looks great and stands the test of time. Paper posters are so college dorm room. That's why I'm very happy with the new collection I've started with today's sponsor, Displate. Displate is a unique metal poster company that perfectly caters to your nerdy needs. They have licensed art from Star Wars, Marvel, and Elden Ring. They have custom pieces from independent artists. In total, they have over 2 million posters to choose from. The real innovation here is the quality metal artwork. These posters use magnets to quickly and easily stick to your wall. Simply adhere the magnet and let quantum mechanics take over. Because they are metal, they are both interchangeable with any other Displates in your collection, and they don't fade and wrinkle in the same way that paper posters do. Metal also allows for Textra, Displate's latest product that adds undeniably satisfying three-dimensional texture to your posters. I'm extremely happy with the quality of my new Arcane, Atomic Heart, and Fallout Displates. If you want to start your own collection, click the discount link in the description to get 26% off for 1 to 2 Displates, or 30% off for 3 or more. You have so many geeky passions. Let people see them, display them, better yet, displate them. Thanks to Mass Effect nerds, the entire Mass Effect Codex is now available online. And according to that codex, the Citadel does in fact generate the majority of its gravity via centrifugal, or in our case, centripetal forces. The Citadel itself rotates once every 3.5 minutes, and the citizens of the wards in those long arms are pinned to its sides with 1.02 Earth gravity. That's 1.02 times the normal gravitational acceleration on Earth, which is 9.81 meters per second per second. In the Presidium, which is that much smaller ring at the center, it's 0.3 Gs. These two numbers at least make sense. If you keep the rate of rotation the same, because these two rings in the Citadel are connected, then the further
So,
you
no
are
elemental
out from the
mastery
center
for me.
of rotation, the
Lot
more
of crit
centripetal
damage.
force you will feel. Because
It's going to
at
be
the same
really useful
rotation
for
rate,
somebody
you're covering
else.
more distance in the same amount of time than the smaller ring is. More distance over time is more speed is more velocity is more acceleration, which is more force. Now, if you know the equation for centripetal acceleration, you know that R is in the denominator. We'll get to that in a bit. So wouldn't a larger radius for the wards mean actually a lesser force? Well, no, because here specifically the rate of rotation is the same. Think of it this way. If you had 3.5 minutes to go around a very small track in your car, you could get a pretty leisurely pace going, right? And you wouldn't have to take all those hard corners. But if you had to get around a giant track in that same 3.5 minutes, you would have to go much, much faster, right? And then you're driving effectively, turning left the whole time, you're driving like a mass car. Effect. Hey, did you know that we have a gaming channel? We do this kind of thing all the time. We science your favorite games just like this. I'll show you what we got up to last week.
What is that?
It's nothing. I'm but a student of xenobiology. This is the equation for centripetal acceleration. As you can see, it depends on the tangential velocity at the edge of rotation and the radius of that rotation or rotating thing. Let's check the Citadel's numbers. Start with the Presidium and 7.2 kilometers in diameter. Multiply that by pi to get the circumference, divide that circumference by the rate of rotation to get the tangential velocity, square that, and then divide it by d over 2, or diameter over 2, to get the radius, and then we plug and chug and we get, bam, exactly the right answer, 0.3 G. Now all we have to do is do the exact same thing for the Ward's numbers at 12.8 kilometers in diameter, and we get, bam, exactly the wrong number. Why? Why in a game so filled with sciencey stuff is this one number wrong? Mass Effect lore accurately calculates the kinetic energy of a railgun round, but can't do spin gravity? This is the only glaring numerical error in the codex as far as I can tell. So it's frustrating for a sci-fientist like me, until you know why this number is wrong. It's wrong because there's a difference between science and telling a story.
A common thread throughout a lot of sci-fi movies throughout the years, whether it's 2001: A Space Odyssey or The Martian or Interstellar, is the use of centrifugal or centripetal rotational forces to create artificial gravity. But there's something that Hollywood doesn't want you to know. There's another way, and it might actually be easier. Imagine you're the engineer tasked with designing an interplanetary vessel for long-duration spaceflight that also needs to create artificial gravity. It's already difficult to design long-duration space vessels, as you have to have all the requisite life support systems and radiation protection and so on. Now imagine you need to make the whole thing spin. But remember, all artificial gravity is us harnessing acceleration. Rotational acceleration works just fine, but what about linear acceleration? You know that feeling when your car accelerates from rest really quickly and you get pushed into the back of your seat? That's your inertia wanting to keep you in the chair. Imagine a vessel whose living quarters, instead of being parallel to the direction of motion like you might see on a cruise liner or a battleship on the ocean, instead has its living quarters perpendicular to the direction of motion. So that way, when the ship is accelerating this direction, you on the floor are being pushed down into the floor and the floor pushes back up on you, simulating gravity. All this linear gravity system would require is a ship that can accelerate constantly for the duration of the spaceflight at 9.8 meters per second squared, which is Earth's gravitational constant. The problem here isn't construction, it's fuel. The sheer amount of fuel required to accelerate constantly for the entire duration of an interplanetary voyage is staggering. Until we solve this problem with a more intelligent fuel mixture, or maybe a more intelligent method of nuclear fission or fusion to fuel our rockets, This unfortunately lies in the realm of science fiction.
All right. All right.
Exploration and trials. Adventuring is right up my alley.
The only thing left to do is yes, I'm gonna finish this right now, for now. Now I'm gonna test something out using this song. The delay of the mic. Dun 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 dun. My neighbors ask me why I'm limping down the way, and who that fellow was who came by yesterday. I quickly turn my face before I start to blush, 'cause frankly there is nothing I can say for pushing the extremes, and I just got a thing you'll find in the magazines. This molded silicone has got my back in place. Give me more of what I really need, 'cause there is no Hulk like horsecock. Send your asshole into shock in horsecock, of course cock. Grab the lube and slam the day away. My shaft is quivering and my balls are turning blue. So I think of drinking in a foot or even two of my favorite stallion that I keep in a drawer. Sleep it in and I've been dripping goo as I take more cock. Horsecock, shut the door and turn the lock. Is your cock a horsecock? You will never hear me say nay, 'cause there is no cock like horsecock. Wrap my dick inside the sock and don't stop, no horsecock. Stretch at my insides and make me pray. Lovely horsecock, horsecock, shupa-dupa-da-da-ba-da-ba-dum, horsecock, more horsecock, rap-dub-dub-dub-dub-da-da-dum. Dum-dum-ba-dum-dum-dum, ram-pa-dum-pa-da-ra-ba-da-ba-dum-dum-ba-dum-dum-dum. Dum. Alright. That's going to be it for the stream. Good luck, have fun, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.